Bourbon is called the drink of Kentucky. This barrel-aged distilled spirit is primarily made in the bluegrass state and is a type of whiskey made of corn. But before you can call it bourbon, special requirements must first be met. Four Roses master distiller Jim Rutledge says these strict guidelines are what make bourbon the best.
Has to be made any straight whiskey, and the primary grain in bourbon is corn. Any straight whiskey has to be a minimum of 51% corn to be a bourbon. Has to be distilled at less than 160 proof, and proof is double the percentage, so that's less than 80% alcohol. It cannot be entered into a barrel at greater than 125 proof or 62.5%, and the barrel has to be a brand new barrel each and every time. It's an oak barrel. We all in the industry use white oak barrels, and the barrels are charred on the inside, and then the flavor cannot be adulterated in any way.
Four Roses uses 5 different yeast cultures combined with 2 grain recipes to get 10 unique bourbon flavors.
All bourbons we use a small flavoring grain. It's usually rye grain or wheat, and we use more than anyone else. Less corn, and we use a lot of rye to give a rich, full-bodied flavor and a bit of spicy character.
Bourbon is the alcohol found in the mint julep. To see how this cocktail is made, I met with an expert on the drink for a demonstration. I'm here with bartender Larry Rice, and today he's going to show us how to make the drink of the Kentucky Derby, a mint julep. But before we get started, tell me, how did you become a bartender?
I started bartending when I was in college. Really kind of gravitated towards it. I love spirits, love people. It's a very hospitable business, and I really enjoyed the fact that you could interact with people on a daily basis.
Well, tell us a little bit about the mint julep. How did it become known associated with Kentucky and the Kentucky Derby?
We kind of just took it as our own a while back. Originally, the mint julep was the julep itself, I should say, is very old. Mint didn't come into play until the 1800s. Originally, it was a medicinal drink. It had lavender, water, sugar in it. No alcohol at all. It wasn't until the early 19th century that you even saw alcohol, and it was rum at the time. Around the Civil War era, or just previous to the Civil War, you started hearing about the Georgia julep, which had brandy in it, sometimes substituted with whiskey. Whenever Kentucky took it on its own, they added, they obviously were going to use whiskey because of our heritage with whiskey here in the state. And we've kind of been doing the same build ever since. Which we got rid of the lavender, we got rid of the water, and we got and whatnot, and we added in whiskey, mint, and sugar. So
great. Well, tell us, what's the first step in making a mint julep?
First step is the mint, which kind of makes sense. I like to take the leaves off. A lot of people will add in the stems. You can get a little bit of bitterness from it if you're gentle with it. Either way is fine, because you're just wanting to bruise it to get the oils. The oil is where all the smell and flavor comes from.
Does it matter what type of mint you use?
It doesn't, and it does. For traditional mint julep, I like to use spearmint. Like I said before, there's been several other things added in and out of juleps in general, as pineapple, whatnot. You can play around with it a little bit. I've even seen pineapple in them before. Peaches are in the Georgia julep. Traditional Kentucky julep is going to be spearmint, however. So.
Now, how do you tell if it's fresh?
Well, it's pretty easy. Just like any kind of vegetation, it'll start to brown. It'll look lifeless. You can wake it back up, like with ice water, just like you would a flower or whatnot.
Submerge it into ice water?
Or just even the stems.
Okay.
But preferably, you don't want to have to do that. You're going to get more oils and a better aroma if you just have good fresh mint. So first thing you do is you put your leaves in the bottom, and then just kind of roll it around. You're just bruising it. You're not really muddling, like you're not trying to pulverize it or kill it. You just want to get those oils to express. That way you get the nice aroma, so they can grab a hold of the whiskey. Add in your sugars. I used Amara sugar. It's a raw cane sugar, and it has a really nice maple flavor to it, which complements the bourbon very much.
Now, is this just sugar-water mixture? What exactly?
It's a 1-to-1. It's like a syrup. It's like a simple syrup. It's 1 part Demerara sugar, which is again pretty much brown unprocessed sugar, and 1 part water. And then you reduce it. Right. So once you get that in there, you want to add in your bourbon. Today I'm using Bullet. Bullet bourbon's a high rye concentrate. I like the spice. When you're adding the sweetness in the mint, it has a nice spice to it.
Now, some people use a dry mix. What's the difference between a dry and fresh mint julep?
Well, the premixes that you're talking about, they're just wrong, is what it is. It's the difference between using something fresh and using something like frozen or preserved. You just don't want to do that.
Right.
If you can at all avoid it, and honestly, when you're drinking, you can avoid it. You can just do without if you have to.
Right. What goes into the dry mix? What do they actually put in it?
There's like steps to that. They're actually putting in the sugar, the mint, and the whiskey all together. So now I've got the bullet rye in here, a little bit of the mint, and then the syrup. I've macerated it in, you got the effervescence. And so now I'm just going to add in the crushed ice. Like I said before, water was a big component in the original juleps. How we'll get our water here is by using crushed or shaved ice, which obviously will dilute fast, which will chill it very quickly. So once we get it in there, we can agitate it just a little bit to get the dilution started. And you can see right away the ice starts to take through. So a little bit of agitation will get all the dilution you need.
Now, if you use cubes of ice, should you add a little bit of water then to dilute it faster?
You could do that, but honestly, like, you're never going to get the same chill factor out of cubed ice that you're going to get out. Think about surface area. The more surface area you have, and obviously the smaller the pieces, the more surface area, the colder it's going to be.
Absolutely.
So, you know, and it's as simple as a Lewis bag and a mallet. Like I used a muddler. Sometimes if I'm doing a lot of ice, I'll actually use like a pulverizer for meat. But just get it, and if you don't have a Lewis bag is just as a barman's bag for crushing ice.
Right.
You can just make a bag out of cloth. It's very simple. Or even just a napkin. You know, not obviously a paper napkin, but if you have like a linen napkin, then you can just roll it over and do that. Okay. One of the last steps, we're going to take the mint itself. And this seems kind of simple. Like a lot of people think it's just garnish, but it's not. What you're wanting to do here is you're drawing attention to the mint and the drink itself. So you want to wake it up a little bit. And what you're doing here is just expressing the oils again. And you can rub them, you can spank them, is what we call that when I smack it like that.
I can already smell it too. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Well, and then when you put your nose down into the drink to take the drink, like your senses are going to draw attention to the mint that you've added into the thing. And then you can be finished right now. This could be your julep.
Okay.
The Georgia juleps and whatnot added peaches to it. Some people added pineapple to it. I like to add a little bit of fresh berries to the top of it.
Okay.
And then a little bit of either pulverized sugar if you don't want to take the time to make your own bar sugar. But bar sugar is just basically you've pulverized regular granule sugar.
Right.
So it dissolves quicker.
Okay. And this going to sweeten the drink a little bit?
It will as it dissolves. So and a couple things you can do, you can just eat the berries right away and then start drinking the drink, or you can let them fall into it and then it'll help flavor the julep as well. And there's your mint julep.